MC-14 and MC-15 carriers. What's one common thing that the MC-10, 12s, and 13s all have in common? All the carriers we've looked at so far, what do they all have in common?
They're for toilets.
They're for toilets, that's good.
The MC-100.
Bingo. But you're right too.
What did Francis say? The MC-100 faceplate and then the fitting behind it.
Okay, so the fitting behind it changes, right? Because it could be a long barrel fitting, it could be auxiliary inlet, it could be a 13, it could be a 12, but this remains the same. This is the MC-100 kit. So for every complete carrier, you have two things. You need the MC-100 kit and you need the fitting. That's from MC-10 all the way to MC-13. Now, when we get into an MC-14 or an MC-15, then we don't use this faceplate. Why? What faceplate system do we use for these two fittings? MC-200. Okay. What's the difference between MC-200 and MC-100? Page 222 and 223. You can see how that's the MC-200 faceplate. The legs are the same between MC-100 and 200. Legs are the same. What's the difference between the 100 and 200?
It's the faceplate.
The faceplate. Okay. See how it looks more like a spider web on the 222 and 223, 14, 15? Whereas this is more solid. MC-10 through 13 fittings have a face. This is called the face of the fitting, where the gasket goes on, that bolts to the back of the faceplate, which is fairly smooth. Right? Okay. The MC-14, MC-15 are inherently different because the fittings are threaded. So the spider web faceplate, the MC-200 faceplate, bolts to here. It goes over this faceplate, and the nipple that would screw into here that the toilet mounts on for the waste to be traveled away. So that nipple goes into the faceplate, and then the faceplate's bolted to that fitting, right? MC-10 through 13. On MC-14 and 15, the nipple threads directly into the fitting.
Instead of the faceplate.
Instead of the faceplate. The faceplate, which we don't have here, but you can see it's a spider web, it goes around this thing. Are these designed to receive the nipples directly? For two reasons. One, you'll notice in the description of the 14, 15, these are called fixed vertical, not adjustable. So this only has one adjustment opportunity. This has two adjustment opportunities. Because the faceplate is not independent of this, it goes around, then we cannot, it's going to be the same height as this fitting if we move it all up and down. So you can adjust the toilet height by going like this within your stack, because you're going to have pipe coming down, or it's going to be a standalone. Typically this is a standalone. This is another hospital carrier. The other thing that's different is it's narrower. So in narrow chases where you're very, very tight for space, you would offer an MC-14 or 15. What's the difference between the 14 and the 15?
15 is offset.
15 is offset, okay. And the 14 is what we call inline. Why would somebody want to buy an offset versus an inline?
Well, an offset would be for, if they're doing a retrofit, I guess, for a toilet, and they need to be able to adjust for where the toilet is.
That's exactly right. So the stack is in a certain location on a retrofit job. We can't move where the piping is. It is where it is. But we don't want the toilet to be in line with the stack, which would be this one, because the stack is going there. For some reason, it's got to be offset. So we use this one. You see that where the nipple goes in is not exactly in the middle where the pipe is off to the side. Right? Now, if you look at MC-14 on page 222, we have three different models, right? And 2/3 down on the left. What are the differences? What does 3" and 4" mean? What does that refer to on this thing? This is a 4". This is a MC-14-4-V2-PF. This is a 4" fitting. If it was MC-14 3, this would be 3". This would be less. And the V2 means what? 2" vent, which is this. This is the 2" vent. But if somebody wanted to cut, oh, this is open, threaded. Why is that open and threaded? That one's solid.
So you can connect.
You can connect, again, a urinal or a labby to it to take the waste. On the bottom of page 211, vertical fixed offset carriers. The very bottom left corner, MC-15 in wall. What's the dimension in the middle? You see that 4 3/4 inch dimension, very bottom left corner? What is it on MC-10 in the top left corner? 6.5 versus 4 3/4. That's the difference. So it's amazing, but in some installations, you may get calls from contractors that say, what's the chase? What area is the chase in the building?
The place behind the wall.
The place behind the wall. So if we were in a bathroom and this is the wall and the toilets are mounted on here, the chase is what's behind this wall. Until you get to the next wall, which is, let's say this is the men's room, which is the women's room on the other side. So the space between, you might call the space or the crawl space or whatever is called the chase. So sometimes that chase is so narrow that they don't have room to stick all this in that spot. So they want a narrow wall fitting, very skinny, which is the MC-14, MC-15. So if you ever hear anyone say, do you have a very narrow carrier to fit in a very narrow chase space, this is what you would recommend. But you'd have to caution them, these cannot go in a row and be connected. You could have 5 independents, and they're all going to waste down on their own vertically, but they're not sideways, they're not going to flow into each other. These are very rare. We don't sell a whole bunch of these. Why are they rare? Why wouldn't we sell more of these? One reason is the fact that they cannot be connected in tandem. On an installation, it's going to be lower cost installation if we're connecting 5 of the MC-10s in a row, going to a 13, then you're traveling, you're wasting down ones. If we have 5 of these in a row, you'd have 5 waste and connections and labor to deal with. So these are typically only, this is back to a hospital, these are typically standalone, so patient room, assisted living, where you don't have a battery, you don't have a row of them. They're just less flexible. You can't use them to receive from an MC-10.
But it says here an MC-15D, so that's, I guess, for a dual outlet.
Double.
Or double outlet. You can back a men's and a women's restroom toilet on the 15 because,
Yeah.
but it would have to go to the same pipe.
That's right, and there you have a threaded piece, a threaded receiver there for the nipple. There'd be one on the back.
Correct. Correct.
Does the 14 come in a double? So why wouldn't the 14 come in a double?
Because there's no need, there's no back-to-back installation.
There could be, but think about it. If you had the same, if it was the same design, you had the same thread here, and you had this nipple in on here in the same line as this,
You'd have backflow. Obviously, yeah, you'd have backflow.
you're gonna have backflow,
Yeah.
right? Whereas you're not gonna have it on the 15
Yeah.
because it's off where the pipe is. Are you gonna have it on the 10? When somebody flushes a toilet, the waste enters here, it's gonna hit the back of the fitting and travel down, right? So on an MC-10 DPF, you've got this elbow or arm and this face here, and you're gonna have the exact same thing over here. It's gonna look, as we've seen them before, right? It's gonna look just like this on this side. So even on an MC-10, if both people are flushing at the same time, the waste is still, it's gonna meet here, but it's not gonna enter the other person's basin. Because if you think about it, the MC-12 doesn't have receiving connections for an MC-10, neither does this, right? What's the big difference though between a 12 and a 14?
Well, you cannot adjust the
faceplate.
fittings, but you don't need it if you vertically stack them.
That's exactly correct. So the reason why somebody would order a 12 is there's still 2 stages of adjustment. Meaning, the 12 uses this faceplate. So I can still adjust my faceplate. I can have my fitting fixed in the stack and not touch it and adjust the faceplate to get to the toilet height. If I'm using a 14, I don't have that. The only way I can adjust the toilet height with a 14 is to move this up and down within the stack.
Right.
And I may not have the flexibility to do that. I might be fixed. If it's a retro, it might already be there, and it is what it is, and I can't adjust the toilet now. And the work to deal with the pipe is too much. So that's why they would go with a 12, because it's more flexible. But you could offer it. You could offer a 14 if they may not need that extra adjustment. Key thing is with it, all the way from 10 to 13, there's 2 stages of adjustment: the fittings and the faceplate for the toilet, the fittings for the waste. On the 14-15, it all goes in unison, but they're narrower. That's the big motivation for somebody to buy a 14-15 is because they're narrower in the chase. And the reason why they're narrower is you don't have this whole thing, this thickness basically plus the fitting thickness, because on a 14-15 the faceplate's a spider web and goes over this. So there's really no extra space taken up by the faceplate on a 14-15 because it goes on to here.
Right. Why would someone, this is for the room, I don't know if anyone knows the answer, why would someone buy a Mifab carryover competitor? What is the selling features and benefits of our carryover to the competition?
That's a good question. So the first reason is all of our MC-100 faceplate assemblies, which is used from 10 to 13 as we know, they always come assembled out of the box. We pull this out of the box and the 2 legs are bolted to the faceplate. We call that assembled. And you'll notice that this bottom piece is at the bottom, it's at the down position. So the contractor doesn't need to adjust this faceplate because you always want this iron touching the ground to give you extra stability. And we figured out that this is the most common elevation. So most plumbers would say, okay, out of the box, I put this on the ground, I bolt it to the ground, and I'm done. Now, some people will need to adjust the faceplate, and when they do, so second benefit, our bolts have a washer built into the bolt. It's not a loose washer. With a lot of our competitors, this washer here is a loose part, so they tend to lose it. They can bend it during the tightening. It's much easier to work with a washer with a built-in flange, which is what we have here. Third advantage we have over the competition, all of our holes are greased. So when these are made in our factories, we pre-grease the holes. You can see the grease coming out of this hole here. Why do we do that?
Easier threading.
Easier to thread. So the contractor on the job in a very awkward, sometimes dark situation is not going to, we've all been there, you pull out a rod, you start to thread and the thing doesn't thread. So this is much more likely to thread because we pre-grease the holes. Another advantage we have over the competition is we have this tapping here. The reason why we have this tapping is in a typical toilet installation, there's 4 studs, there's 4 holes, these 4 holes are used with the 4 studs coming off the fitting to do what? What do those studs do?
Hold the toilet.
They hold the toilet, okay? There's two types of toilets. Jeremy knows the two types of toilets.
Yeah.
There's siphon jet and blowout, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And urinals, there's a siphon jet and blow urinals as well.
So the most common toilet is a siphon jet toilet, which has the 4-bolt pattern like this. In the event that the customer has a blowout toilet, which is admittedly not very common, then we have the advantage of, the contractor has the advantage of flipping this over like this and using 1, 2, 3. So a blowout toilet is always a 3-bolt pattern. You know that from
Yeah,
here.
correct.
Whereas a siphon jet toilet's always a 4-bolt. So the same faceplate, Mr. Contractor, can be used either with a blowout or siphon jet toilet.
So I know for a fact that Smith has 2 separate model numbers.
Correct.
So that's actually a huge selling feature.
It is for those that need
That
to
need it.
use a blowout toilet, which admittedly isn't as common. Another feature that we have over our competition is we provide all of our legs to be interchangeable. So whether the leg is like this or I just flipped it, you could flip, this leg could go here, this leg could go there, and you could flip them either way. They're all universal. So that's an advantage because if something breaks in transit, unlike our competition, where some of them have a dedicated right or left leg, you could just open another box and it's just easier to make it work by pulling whatever leg you want. And we have this notch here. The center line of this notch to the ground is 1 inch. The reason for that is to use angle iron, 1 inch angle iron, sorry, 1.5 inch angle iron to bolt to hold a battery of faceplates to the angle iron material. So you can transport 5 or 6 of these already pre-made. They make them in the prefab rooms. Then you can carry the whole battery of the prefab toilets easily to the job site by bolting them through here. Another advantage we have is on the back of all of our faceplates, we have this tapping here. We have this tapping here. Now, we know that these tappings are needed for the studs, the 4 studs that hold the toilet. So what's the point of these 2 side tappings? Okay, so look at your book on page 212. And you'll notice a quarter of the way down in the center of the page, 1/2 inch tapping for strut. Right here. Okay, it's right. 1/2 inch tapping for strut mounted flush valve water supply incorporated in the back of faceplate. What that means is when you go to a toilet, you know that you have a flush valve that is either electronically activated like ours or manual to flush to take the waste away, right? So that flush valve has to be assembled typically on top of the toilet. The advantage of these 2 tappings, it's called a tapping because it's threaded, is that you have a straight line here, you have a straight line here on the 2 legs. A contractor can take a piece of strut going like this, and he can place it against here and here, so it's got 2 flat points to press it against, and then with a 1/2 inch bolt, connect the strut so it's permanently affixed to the back of this leg or this leg, and then with a cushion clamp is a rubber lined clamp that's flexible. Okay, with a cushion clamp affixed to the strut, it's exactly 4 3/4 from the center line of the cushion clamp to the center line of the nipple, and that's the exact dimension that one needs for a flush valve rough-in. So we would say to contractors, we give you that tapping, which nobody else does, for your flush valve rough-in dimension. Every plumber that you say that to, they'll say, oh yeah, that's a nice feature because nobody else has that. Okay. Another advantage that we have with our carrier system is all of our studs are shipped standard with the threaded rod protectors, so the contractor doesn't have to put that on after the fact. and all of them are shipped with the nuts threaded onto the studs. So the nuts aren't loose in the box, loose in the bag, losing them. They're already pre-assembled. So there's a time saver for the contractor to take these studs. And how would the contractor typically thread this into here? Would the end with the nut go first, or would the end without the nut go first?
Without the nut.
With the nut goes first. So with the nut is going to go like this. We're going to thread this stud through this faceplate, and there's what's called a backup nut, which is in that hardware kit, which is another nut like this.
It connects the.
That's going to go on the back. So you're nutted on the back and the front. So another advantage we have is our bowl saver washer, which is in this trim kit. The bowl saver washer is this washer, which is in a concave design. Because imagine you have this stud in like this, and you have this plain stud sticking through. You have 4 of them sticking through. The drywall is going to be where? Is it going to be here? It's going to be, where's it going to?
Somewhere along that stud.
It's going to be typically right at the end. And you're only going to have 3/4 to 1 inch of studs poking through your drywall. Because the toilet is going to, the nipple sticking out, the nipple goes into the horn of the toilet, the back end of the toilet, and then the toilet goes over this stud, and you have the bowl saver washer goes onto the stud, and then the toilet goes and you have your finish cap nut. The advantage of the bowl saver washer is if it's a drywall face or a tile face, let's say drywall, when you tighten the bowl saver washer, it tightens into the drywall. So it's going in like this, and the stud is sticking through here, and you can do everything from the front. The way our competition does it, they would have a nut like this that they're trying to adjust behind the drywall. And so they have to enlarge the hole bigger to get at this nut to adjust it. Whereas with the bowl saver washer, holds from cracking. When you go to the final tightening of the toilet onto the 4 studs, when the nuts are behind, it's harder to get them all aligned to be the same distance from the faceplate. So if one is in further than the other, and we're tightening all these cap nuts down, you can crack the toilet. Which you can imagine how lovely that feeling is when you're there, you know. So it's easier with the bowl saver washer because the adjustment is from the front. You're going into the wall. It's easier to get all 4 of these bowl saver washers, and we give you 4, in the same space, so that when you mount the toilet on, you're more likely to be flush all the way around. Another advantage we have with our carriers is all of our MC-10 carriers are individually boxed. We're the only ones that box our fittings, our MC-10s. Our competition just puts these in a crate. So for our handling, for our customers' handling, it's a whole lot easier to deal with a box. You've seen these boxed versus dealing with this thing. And the rear anchor support is standard with all MC-10 left or right fittings. And what's the point of this? So that we can secure to the back of the fitting. This goes onto the ground, and then this ties in like this, and you bolt it so that when somebody, you have the toilet sticking out here, when somebody's perched on the end of the toilet, you don't have the seesaw effect. You have this holding the back of the fitting down to the ground.
Does it crack off the toilet? You know, the bolts would start to crack.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Or you've been on some toilets where you've sat on the toilet and it gives a little bit, right? So that's because there's probably no rear anchor support holding this down. So you're getting a little seesaw action, which can lead to leaks and problems in the plumbing system. We give this standard in the box with all of our MC-10 fittings. Most of our competition does not. Okay, any questions on the MC-10 to MC-15 products?